Good afternoon. This is a special meeting, Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority, special meeting. Wednesday, December the 23rd, 2020, and it is 1 o'clock.
Due to the declaration of emergency, this meeting is being held pursuant to authorization from the governor's executive orders. Some or all of City Council members may participate in this meeting by teleconference as authorized by Executive Order 9N-29-20 issued by the Governor of California on March 17, 2020. Until further notice, there will be no public access to City Council meetings. However, public participation is available in the following ways. Members of the public are encouraged to watch the meeting via live stream on communityspectrum.org/live or on the City Hall Facebook page. You may also join us via Zoom and via telephone. Information for those are available on the city's agenda and on the website. Members of the public are also encouraged to submit their public comments. You can do that via email by 10 a.m. on Wednesday, December 23rd to ggarcia@calexico.ca.gov or via fax to 760-768-2103. All comments will be read aloud during the meeting. Public comments live via Zoom may be by submitted the request via Zoom chat. Persons could submit their name and the number of the agenda item they wish to speak on, or just public comments for today that pertain to today's meeting.
Okay, so this meeting is being called to order. Pledge of Allegiance. Mayor Pro Tem, will you lead? Roll call.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno.
Here.
Councilmember Ureña.
Here.
Councilmember Romo.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our mission statement, Mr. Councilman Garcia.
City of Calexico mission statement. Together, we pledge to provide effective and efficient services in a courteous and respectful manner to improve the quality of life for all in a unique, orderly community. Viva Calexico.
Innovation, Pro Tem Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Arreola. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life, the opportunity to serve the people of our city. As we gather here today, I ask for your guidance, wisdom, and respect for one another. I ask your blessing and our responsibility to serve the common good of all. I ask you, help us to engage in meaningful discussion and grant us the courage to know and do what is right and good and true. Remind us that no matter who we are, everyone is our fellow citizen, whom we must respect and protect. Our children, the elderly, the poor, those who are hungry, those who are homeless, those who are sick from COVID, and immigrants in our midst, those who live in the margins. May each of us to speak their strength, to speak out when it is time to speak out and listen, patiently and respectively. When it is time to listen, help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, no matter who they are. To finish, I ask you to clothe us with compassion, deepen our lives with devotion, and hollow our lives with righteousness. I ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Councilwoman Romo, you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Madam. Padre nuestro, te damos las gracias por permitirnos estar en este momento, en esta reunión. Te pedimos, Señor, por todos los habitantes de Calexico, para que tengas compasión y misericordia de todos nosotros y calmes tanta enfermedad de COVID que tenemos y tanto daño nos ha hecho. Te lo pedimos en el nombre de Jesucristo nuestro Señor. Amén.
Amén.
Okay. have a motion to approve the agenda? Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña, Councilmember Romo, Councilmember Garcia.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, Mayor.
Okay. Announcements?
These proceedings may be viewed on the City of Calexico website at www.calexico.ca.gov the Friday following the City Council meeting. Community office hours with Mayor Arreola Fernandez will resume on the fourth Tuesday of the month, beginning in January 2021. Please contact the City Clerk's office at 760-768-2102 for a Zoom appointment.
Moving on to presentations. Presentation by the COVID-19 Ad Hoc Committee.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll go ahead and give a brief presentation, a summary of what happened at our first COVID meeting. But before I get there, I just want the council and the public to know that there is a recording of the complete 3-hour meeting.
Moving on to presentation by the COVID-19 Ad Hoc Committee.
There is a complete
Excuse me,
recording.
could you speak a little bit louder?
Absolutely. Is this any better? Hello?
Okay.
This microphone's a little bit weird. Hello? There it is. Anyway, as I was saying, there is a 3-hour recording of the entire meeting with the COVID committee, and I'll just go ahead and provide a summary for the council of what happened at that meeting, but after this meeting for sure I will make sure each and every one of you continues to stay updated with the recordings so you can see it with your own eyes. The purpose for we worked a little bit on the purpose of the committee. We didn't come up with a finalized mission statement, but we will for sure bring that up as an item for our next meeting on the 26th. However, we did have a general idea of the purpose of the committee, and it is to make a short-term plan to mitigate the effects of COVID in the population of Calexico. The official people that wanted to become a part of this committee were myself, Ms. Romo, from Calexico Unified School District, Mr. Ciro Calderon, from Heffernan Memorial, Ms. Grijalva and Mr. Ureña Ragio, from Imperial Valley Equity and Justice, Daniela Flores, and from the medical sector, Dr. Vo. I'll go ahead and start with some reports on the frustrating, I'll start with the things that we failed to do as a community, and then move on to what we can do to repair that damage if we move quickly enough. The things our city frustratingly failed to do to prevent the Thanksgiving outbreak, and now we don't have enough time to prevent a Christmas or a New Year's outbreak, is threefold, and they have all to do with law enforcement and road preparedness for mobility during this pandemic. We should have moved sooner to arrange with Mexicali a good filter that actually stops non-essential travel. We still have some hopes, but it is now December 23rd. Christmas is already happening. People are already traveling. People are already in Cancun, in Sinaloa, and all over. Those people will come back to our community and have a high possibility of being infected, especially since we know that they're going there for parties. If we would have acted 2 to 3 months ago, we would have been able to secure with Caltrans a road plan to limit traffic going into Mexicali on the United States side. Unfortunately, we no longer have enough time to mitigate mobility and infections and deaths that way. And number 3, which we might still have time to do, we don't have time to slow down traffic through a DUI checkpoint for Christmas, but we might be able to do so for New Year's. So to repair the damage that we should be bracing for right now, because just looking at the lines mathematically, and just mathematically the fact that this is 2 holidays as opposed to one Thanksgiving holiday, we need to be now bracing for the impact of infections and deaths that is going to occur after New Year's. Some recommendations were made by the committee. The first one came from Blanca Morales from the Calexico Wellness Center, who is not a part of the committee, but was a member of the public, helping us coordinate and giving her medical perspective on the situation. She asked the members of the Heffernan board who were present that, and Dr. Vo actually seconded this recommendation, that there is an urgent need for a mobile testing clinic for 2 particular groups. For farm workers, so we can get them at First Street to test and to give information not only on COVID itself, but the vaccine that is upcoming, and for the homeless. Additionally, there are resources out there for housing for people that come out positive for COVID. The only problem is that a lot of those vouchers that the county is giving are for El Centro. So there needs to be some organization, some collaboration from Calexico groups, so that the people that come out positive are able to have the transportation, the food necessary, and the clothing necessary to do quarantine with that voucher that the county is providing. We are kind of letting a good resource that is given to us go to waste by not having that little last mile of making sure that they can get to that hotel where they're being offered a free stay. Testing is very, very important. We're not doing enough testing, and we're especially not doing enough testing for our essential workers and for people who are homeless, unfortunately. Dr. Paul said that a mobile clinic right now, and now we're talking about the mobile clinic itself, there's a couple barriers that we need to address. The first one is labor needs. There was a need brought up by Director Ureña from Heffernan, which is that unfortunately Rite Aid and a lot of the testing providers here in Imperial County are mandating that people sign up electronically. This town does not have the culture, I would say, to go ahead and make sure that works. There needs to be a medical unit that is not only close by, accessible, but that people can, so that people can be signed up or have assistance for signing up for the reimbursement. We need labor and we need money essentially for that. I have already talked to Dr. Wheeler from San Diego State University, asking him if he can, as soon as possible, open up a work-study program so we can get some student labor. This can be a great opportunity for medical assistants or medical students in training, nursing students in training during this pandemic, so they can help us deliver the tests to these people, both the homeless and the farm workers. Otherwise, Heffernan, these organizations, Dr. Go and Calexico Wellness, have already told Heffernan that they need an emergency grant. One thing the city of Calexico can do, which we would have to do it today because on the 31st, CARES Act money from the county expires. One thing that we need to do is immediately get on the phone with our supervisors because they have, it's my understanding that they still have millions of dollars from their CARES Act funding. The municipalities didn't get a lot of CARES Act funding. We've already, can everybody hear me? No. Sorry, this microphone is really weird.
I can hear you back there, so.
Good? Okay, excellent, thank you. The municipalities did not receive, you got the distance right. There you go. The municipalities did not receive the majority of the CARES Act money. So here in the city of Calexico, we have pretty much almost spent it. Most of the money is at the county. Unfortunately, during these past 9 to 10 months, no one has solicited money from this project from the county, so that money has not gotten here. We need to move today, tomorrow, so while the county supervisors are scrambling to see how they're going to spend the money that they have left over, because nobody asked for it, We need to come up to them and say there's an immediate need for this medical clinic, for testing for farm workers and homeless, and we need some of that CARES money now to make that happen. So again, Heffernan has already been contacted. We as a council need to get into contact with the county to bring down some of that CARES money for this particular purpose. Number 2 is, again, with the county in our leadership role as a council representing the city of Calexico, to solicit help from the supervisors so that when the vaccine comes and is available that it is available to the population in general, including farm workers and essential workers. We need to put some pressure on the supervisors to prioritize farm workers, and we need to increase public trust in the vaccine. I saw a statistic out there saying that somewhere around 52% of white Americans have trust in the vaccine. Unfortunately, that number for Hispanic communities is somewhere around 26% and around 24% for African Americans. We need to we need to make our community feel safe with this vaccine, because fortunately we live in a very privileged country. We are getting the good vaccine. We just need to convince our community members that they need to take it so that they can be protected from the coronavirus. Number 3, Calexico Unified School District took the initiative through President Ciro Calderon to have, one second, let me drink some water. Calexico Unified School District President Ciro Calderon, alongside his superintendent, agreed to begin sending messages, bilingual messages, to the thousands of families represented by the Calexico Unified School District, keeping them updated about the situation through COVID, recommendations, vaccine informations, and anything else that comes out of this committee. Especially important is that our community members know that our hospitals are saturated, impacted, over capacity, not just in the valley, but across the state. Unfortunately, we're not in the same situation we are in May or June, where in May or June, when El Centro Regional Medical Center was saturated by coronavirus patients, we still had the luxury of transferring them to San Diego, Palm Springs, San Francisco, and Sacramento. We no longer have that luxury, and we have an oncoming surge coming from all the parties, the posadas, Christmas, New Year's, Dia de los Reyes Magos, etc. So we've made that alliance with the Calexico Unified School District on the subject of directly communicating with families. Fortunately, Mr. Figueroa still had a couple $1,000s of CARES Act money that we did not allocate to anything. The committee gave a recommendation to the city that there needs to be a sign, a very visible sign that keeps the public updated on COVID informations, vaccines, other measures and recommendations at the port of entry or somewhere along the lines. Right now, the space that is being solicited is the Chamber of Commerce, and that will have no fiscal impact. That is going to be coming out of CARES Act money. I believe the cost is going to be $1,500 a month. Number 5, the city of Calexico needs to solicit extra shipments of vaccines from the state, because the state is unaware of our unique border situation. We need to be asking for extra vaccines for 2 reasons: because of the higher risk due to the border, and because of our quote-unquote población flotante, or not transient, but population that transfronteriza is a real word, that moves across the border and increases our population by a good 20 to 50%, depending on the time, of course. So we need to ask for extra vaccines from the county, alongside pushing the county to prioritize farm workers and other essential workers. Number 6, the city of Calexico needs to set rules for business hours and this one should be made an agenda item hopefully for the next regular meeting. City of Calexico needs to limit business hours so that they are consistent with the stay-at-home order. No business should be open after 10 p.m. and no earlier than 5 a.m. Number 7, I've spoken to Chief Gerardo about this one extensively. City of Calexico, through the police department, will be attending to calls over parties. Our job as a council, we need to authorize the use of a fine for parties during the pandemic. We need to revise our strategy and support our law enforcement when enforcing the stay-at-home order. We might want to visit, because of the bureaucracy with fines, we might want to visit, like the City of Los Angeles, a possible ordinance where we can shut off people's water for having parties and not ceasing to have parties. Obviously, it's not a front, it's not the first line of convincing that you have, but it's definitely a tool that we want to have in our arsenal against this virus. Number 8, and this one is, if possible, this one that we have to check with our city attorney. I know that a lot of employers across the county are telling their employees that if they are going to travel outside of state or county limits, upon their return, they will be subject to a 14-day quarantine period. If this is something the City of Calexico has jurisdiction over, we should mandate it for every single employer in the City of Calexico, including our own employees. The next reunion or the next meeting for the committee will be this Saturday, 26th of December at 1 p.m. Thank you especially to Dr. Vo, who stood with us, working with us through these issues for a total of 3 hours. For next agenda, we will be a little bit more structured. Hopefully, we will be able to appoint a chair and a secretary, and we will be giving a lot of follow-up to these issues. For now, the City of Calexico desperately needs to send someone to communicate with the county to try to get at least a good 100,000, 200,000 if possible, from the CARES Act money from the county immediately. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, Chief, Police Chief, you have comments?
Do you have any questions for?
No, I'm sure it was a very good meeting, but everything that I'm hearing, I think a lot of the stuff is being duplicated. There's a lot of the stuff that you have said have been taken care of. Like going south, the Mexican authorities were doing checks, as you recall. I don't know if you recall, that we got called because the backup was so far back. There's been a lot of things that you mentioned that I think we're gonna have to go one by one and see.
Sure.
We don't duplicate. And you say you're gonna be having your meeting on Saturday. Are you gonna be using city staff for these meetings, or?
No, I think the last time it took 10 minutes for the agenda to be set.
I have a question, Miguel. Is the facility is gonna be open on a Saturday, and who's gonna be here?
These meetings are through Zoom.
My
Yes.
understanding is that the meetings by the committee are being held virtual via Zoom.
Oh, okay.
That's what the council members that are leading the effort have shared.
Yeah, because if it mentions Saturday, I really don't, our staff is off on Saturdays.
To answer your question, Madam Mayor, that's why I made the point to list the things we failed to do at the beginning of this. Has any of you contacted the county to bring down some CARES Act funds in the last 10 months for a mobile clinic? That was a point that was brought up. I'm asking the question.
I think that our fire chief could answer that also. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff that we have been doing. Okay, moving on. I'm sorry, Mr. Ureña, moving on. Let's have our police chief.
So
answer.
I was invited, and I'm glad and I'm happy I was a part of the group for this discussion. I agreed on a lot of stuff they had. There's a lot of things that we can do on our part as a committee, bring it up to the council and for council approval when it comes to resolutions that you want to change. We need to contact our city attorney to make sure we're not violating anybody's rights. The one thing that I don't agree on is checkpoints. And I had agreed that maybe we can do a checkpoint. After I got home that evening, on Wednesday evening, I was looking at the checkpoints, what the law says, and I sent emails to our city attorney. And I actually spoke with him too, and I cannot set up a DUI checkpoint with a pretext to check people for COVID violations. It's against the Constitution. And everybody that has done anything with driving a car to being searched by the police officers, there's a very fine, thin line that we do. And we don't want to violate anybody's constitutional rights because the United States has laws in place. So right now, I'm going to tell you, and I'm making it public, that I will not set up a DUI checkpoint for COVID. DUI checkpoints, you have to meet certain criteria and regulations. And one of them is that you have to show data that in the last 12 months or years or whatever it is, we have seen an increase in DUI accidents, DUI arrests, in that specific region where you want to do the checkpoints. If we look at it, southbound 111, Cesar Chavez do not qualify because we have not seen an increase in DUI, thank God, DUI arrests or crashes. Number one. Number two, right now, Mr. Ureña, you had talked to me. I thought we were pretty understood each other, but for you to say that law enforcement failed COVID, we failed the people, that is wrong. It is not the job of law enforcement to be citing people. We can go attend calls, loud musics, we can go attend and tell people to turn it out, and we can cite people for not following the order. But to say that we failed this, and the reason why there's an outbreak, and this is the way I took it, the reason there's an outbreak of COVID is because law enforcement failed. The whole nation is dealing with this. I'm not the only police department, we're not the only cities dealing with this. The whole county, the whole state. Not one police chief in the state of California or sheriff, and I told you guys in the meeting, is doing any checkpoints, they're not going, we don't have, first of all, it's against the Constitution and some of the stuff, we're pushing constitutional law. Number two, we are going to get our people infected. We already had an outbreak. I'm not willing to get another outbreak, okay? We don't have the manpower, okay, to be we are attending calls for service, real calls for service, stabbings, we accidents, fatalities. That we had one the other day, and this happens. It's unpredictable. We're dealing with 5150s, people trying to commit suicide. So, in order for us to respond to these calls, if we can attend to them, we will. They're not priority one calls. Priority one calls are to protect people's actual life that's in danger right now. I know that COVID kills people, but we don't know who's COVID or not COVID. That's my job as a city, is to try to protect the citizens with the staff that I have, the people that I have. I cannot bring in more resources. Everybody is thinned out. The whole county, I mean, you have, every agency has people out with regular colds, regular flu, and COVID. So it's very hard for us to keep on asking, and you're asking a lot from a department that is doing what they can with what we have. And that's, to me, I actually, Mr. Renee, I took I feel hurt because I thought we had, an understanding that you understood that we're shorthanded. You went on a ride-along. And everybody else in that meeting doesn't understand the dynamics of what's going on in our city.
Excuse me, let him complete.
So I'm done. I just wanted to make sure that don't blame law enforcement for COVID. It's like President Trump blaming the Chinese and calling it the China virus. I mean, we're going to call it the Calexico Police Department virus in Calexico because we didn't go on. I mean, that's the way I took it. All right, and I honestly do. For everything that we as a city employees and as a city we do for the city, and especially my officers, if they hear this, it's kind of a slap on our face.
Allow me to clarify, Mr. Chief. I'm sorry you took my comments that way, but the comments were not directed to Calexico Police Department. This list of things we failed to do are directed to the City of Calexico Council that had 10 months to bring down more resources for your department, had 10 months to bring down more resources for more testing, for more medical services, for a lot of things. has nothing to do with your department. Absolutely understand what you're saying. This comment was not directed to you, it was directed to the failure of leadership and council.
Well, and on that point too, I mean, I've been here for 30 years as a police officer, and councils do fail sometimes, and lack of experience and whatever you might call it, but also you got to look at it the budgetary side. And you got to look at, if it was, if it was like the Easter quake, where we were able to get a lot of resources in because it was just one affected area, which was Imperial County, it's a lot easier to get resources from the outside to come in than it's when it's a pandemic. It's a world pandemic. It's very hard to get people in. Now, you don't want the military or National Guard in here, because the person that has to declare martial law is the President of the United States. And if he declares it, there's a reason why he hasn't declared it, because the people don't want this to happen. And you're going to live in a militarized state. And unless you guys have been in a third world country where they have military patrolling, you guys don't understand how bad it is. So, like I said, Mr. Ureña, you know what? I felt hurt, but hey, you know what? We're learning to work together. We will work together good. And we got to be careful with violating people's rights. Okay?
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions?
Yes. Mr. Ureña, last week when we met and we created this committee, we said that we wanted actions. And actions as soon as 2 days ago. Those were my words. And I quote. So it looks to me, and you are saying that the previous council, and I was part of the council at least for 6 months, that there was failed leadership. I take that also offensive. I take offense to that. Why? Because, well, what was said also last week, that we wanted actions. And what I see is a process that is going to take days, weeks, months, okay? I don't see any action because you said it. We need to stop the Christmas, we need to stop the New Year infections. And so far, what I've seen is no immediate action to mitigate those potential infections. Okay, it is my time. Thank you. So I don't see any action. I'm sorry, but there's going to be another meeting on Saturday. And I'm glad, and I thank all the committee members. But what I was hoping to see, today or here, is that there was an action plan to address, these upcoming holidays, especially tomorrow and the day after, as to how we're going to address, how we're going to mitigate, how we're going to invite people to stay home, not to create a military state, right? Because for some things, we raise our voices that we're creating a military state, right? But for others, it's okay. For the border, we don't want a militarized border. And I agree with that, right? But for the city, yes, we can set up checkpoints. We can tell people to stay home. What is that? Okay, so, and you can rebut that, if the Madam Mayor allows it. But anyway, so what I was hoping is an action plan, at least to communicate people, and I'm glad that you are talking to the school district and they're going to send, information through their outstanding way of communicating with the parents, the remind application, maybe. But I didn't hear any type of activity going on. And yes, we might have this, let's not call it a DUI checkpoint. The DUI, adding the DUI adds another level of bureaucracy and another level of a roadblock that we have to do whatever we need to do, which is educate our people, okay? We can do outreach. We can be there, right, as leadership. And I can tell you, I'm willing to give up my time and be there with the officers, be there with whoever, as people go to Mexicali or wherever they go and say, you know what, I can't tell you not to go, but I invite you. Go home. Stay with your family. Don't travel this time, the year. Please stay home. All of us, when we were running our campaigns, we knew and we became experts in social media. We were going, live. We were doing videos. We were doing posting. We were creating all kinds of things. So this is the time where we could create those things also, where we can do mass, advertisement, when we can do just something that, again, a reminder to people. Don't go out, don't meet, let's not, yes, we want enforcement, but, all the issues, potential issues were cited already. So let's take a little bit step back. Let's invite our people. Let's go with our leadership that you call on, to question. Let's show the leadership. Let's step up. Let's give up our day, and let's go and stand there. Okay? What you're talking about the farm workers, I hear you. I feel you with all of that, Mr. Ureña. Okay? I was there two weeks ago at 2 o'clock in the morning, passing out information and giving out goodies to them. And I know what they go through. Well, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't know what they go through, because fortunately I haven't had a chance or the fortune to work in that area. But being there at that time, right, it's hard. And I hear you. We need to respond to all of them in our entire community. But it has to be with a specific plan that addresses this issue. It's not about trying to go and march into the county, because the county has done a job too. They had, the testing here for us. Our community didn't respond. I have gotten from the fire chief that the reason why they left is because they were not having people showing up. So how do we make, our people to go and tell them that it's important to go and get tested? You're a numbers guy, right? That if you get tested, right, everything else starts leveling down. Our way of, when we had a chance to get out of the most restrictive, tier, we couldn't do that. One way that we could have done it, through testing, and that didn't happen. Okay, but our people, whether it was, okay, we're okay now, we're going to do our, normal life. But again, I hear you, the leadership. But this is the time, this is us now. This is up to us now, right? We're not going to be able to blame previous, councils. Now it's us. Now it's up to us. What are we going to do? Okay? And so far in this presentation, I didn't hear. I like that idea of the billboards. They cost money, right? But let's look at the return on that investment. Unfortunately, money is not available, or if it is, it's tied up in so much bureaucracy, it's tied up in so much red tape that we're not going to get it, or we couldn't get it as soon as we need it, or as soon as we want to put it to work before New Year's. So, again, I go back to having more of a immediate impact, a good campaign, inviting people, showing, I don't agree with, going and if you don't stop your partying, we're going to shut off your water. What if you have an ill person there? What if you have a toddler, a baby, a toddler that needs to get, their milk or their food, warm up, or they need water? What are we going to turn ourselves into? So there has to be a better way. I've seen you that you do your rallies, and that's something that you do outside. My apologies, I don't want to get into that. But I love when you get in front and you speak your mind and what you think about those things. But with that same energy, I want to invite you, and I want to join you if you want to. Let's get a truck. Let's get a truck from the city. Let's put that mobile sound system that you have. And let's go, just like the firefighters did, with Santa Claus, and say, you know what? People, stay home, please. These are your council members telling you, asking you, begging you, please stay home. Because we can't pull, our police officers, 3 officers and a sergeant to do this. Let's do it ourselves.
Hello? This microphone's not okay.
Just go to the next one, yeah. We're 6 apart.
Hello?
There you go.
Okay, let's clarify some things. With all due respect, because I don't feel like my comments were understood based on the comments that I'm hearing from you. When I say we failed, and I'll go point by point so we have actionable agenda items. When I say we failed to coordinate with Mexicali on the filtro sanitario, what I am saying is at no point in these 10, 11 months have we sat down with Mexicali to address the fact that that filtro sanitario every single day allows so many non-essential trips to go to. That coordination we had 10 months to do. Now that I came into council, I have only had 8 days to do it, and every single day you can ask Gabby, you can ask Miguel, you can ask all of your city staff that I have spent at least 5 to 6 hours in this building breaking my head about how to do this in the time lapse that I was doing. I wish I would have had an extra week to do these things for you, but I didn't because I'm a new council member. You did. You were here for 6 months and you were here for the whole pandemic. At no point was Mexicali contacted. The reason I bring up the DUI checkpoint and the reason I bring up Caltrans is if we had had an extra 3 months to have this committee meeting, we would have been able to coordinate with Caltrans on time to limit capacity going south. We would have been able to sit down with all of those agencies. I only had 8 days. I was able to make contacts with all of those agencies, and unfortunately, I didn't have enough time because this council did not act soon enough to ask these questions. I did put an actionable item down on the agenda, and it is that this city of Calexico is being asked by its doctors, by Calexico Wellness Clinic, by Dr. Vo. We are being asked for that mobile van to be brought down specifically to First Street, and that right there is the purpose of this committee. May I ask, where was this mobile van put when it was brought down from the county?
Theater.
Where?
Say it again. The theater, the van.
The theater, great. It's needed on First Street, not the theater. Not a place where there is no pedestrian access. People without cars need to be able to access it. That is the purpose of this committee. This committee told us we need this van on First Street. We need this van on 3rd Street for the homeless. We need it at their feeding events. That is the information that came out, and that is the purpose of this committee, is so that we can convey that to the county so that they don't spend the funds and then accuse us of not aprovechándonos of those funds. That's why this is here. So this is immediately actionable. We need to go back to the county today, Madam Mayor. You need to pick up the phone and tell the county that we need a mobile van on 1st Street and 3rd Street like the committee has recommended. That is an actionable item. Unfortunately, I only had 8 days, but you guys had 6 or 10 months to address this. If you want to say, if you want to take the floor for me to go ahead and say something, feel free.
Sorry, go on, finish
Thank you.
what you're saying.
Yes,
Are you done,
almost.
Mr. Udeña?
Well, go ahead, interject with your
No,
comment.
Finish what you're saying,
I'll finish on that point for now.
Mr. Garcia.
You know what, Mr. Ureña, again, we go back, we're talking about the city of Calexico, and I know that our farm workers are part of our city, and it's our overall region, right? But we're talking about the city, the numbers from the city, okay? We're talking about the specific population of Calexico, right? Not a transient population. That is important. I agree with you. Those should be, first responders, essential workers, right? I agree with you. But the issue is not just putting the mobile clinic, the mobile testing site, or all of that at the port of entry, right? It's putting it for the Calexico citizens. And that testing center was at the community center, right? When it was here, okay? And when you say that there was no leadership, we had the leadership, Mr. Ureña. It was just that we were being wise to use our resources, okay? Both chiefs were on those calls, okay? They didn't just sit there. They took information. They were applying. They were making sure that whatever came down from the county, it was being implemented. Yes, it could have been done better. Everything could have been done better. Now we're here. Now you're here. And I'm glad that you spend 6 hours here on a daily basis or whatever hours. I'm glad, sir. You might not see me 6 hours here daily, but I communicate with staff whenever I need to work on things, okay? My presence physically here, that's not to say, I take that offense to that, that there's no leadership, okay? I choose to use my time wisely. I choose to give the staff the time to do whatever they need to do, okay? And that's not to say that you're not doing that, but please be careful when you call on and you generalize your statements. Thank you.
I think this has gone beyond. I mean, I think the best thing for, if you all agree, is what he has done, communicate to us and an email or whatever it is, and then maybe we could answer him and an email, or because all this has been taking place. And again, Mrs. Romo, you were with the Heffernan when all this COVID started. Didn't they go out to the homes, to the senior citizens? They gave out masks, gloves, and literature and information. So you see, all that has already been done, Mr. Ireña. And not only that, again, I'm gonna go back to, we have been communicating with Mexicali and the county. We used to have weekly or bi-weekly information given out to the public. Now, again, I think that we just have to, you're doing a great thing. I know you mean well, and it's for the best interest of our community. But, tone down on blaming people, because I think that people take it into offense. So I think the best thing to do is move forward. I mean, you have everything down already, you started, and after your meeting, communicate to us via email, and maybe we might have to take another type of approach on how we're gonna work together on this. But then again, we have the Heffernan across the street. That's their baby. They're the healthcare, and I think they're also have to be in tune, and they're the ones that have to focus on also reaching out to the county, to the state, to the governor, to the president, as Mrs. Roman once said. Whatever, yes, we're gonna follow them, but remember, we're not the healthcare district. Taxes are being paid for them to be running. And I was there, and I'm telling you, we did a good job when we were there. So I think that we have to work together, and, time is precious. We have staff that work very hard, and by having 6-hour meetings or whatever meetings you're going on, that's taking time over our staff where they could be doing something better. The same way with our police department and our fire chief. So as that, I'm ending it. Does anybody else have anything else to say before we end
One
this?
last clarification, and one is financial, and the other one is this misconception on staff time that keeps bringing up. I had mentioned at the beginning of my comments, only 10 minutes of staff time were used for this committee meeting, and that was to set an agenda. After the agenda was set, I did all the work. Number two, financially, these are not city resources. These are county resources that we have graciously been received, and all I am asking is that moving forward, or what I'm submitting as constructive criticism, which is not being taken that way, because you're absolutely right, Madam Mayor. It has to do with our reaction to criticism. I don't take offense to criticism. I try to learn from it, and I'm very good at giving it too. But I am expecting, number one, I'm expecting this to continue in public, because email is not transparent. People want to know the justifications for why things are being done a certain way and for why things are not being done a certain way. So I would submit that these conversations continue to stay public. And for, like I said, I put some actionable items. I hope somebody from this council can contact the county, because they're scrambling to in these 8 days, they are scrambling to figure out how to spend the remaining CARES Act money. We have an immediate need that has evidently not been met, which is the farm worker community, which is one of our most vulnerable but most essential communities. The need is on the table. We have all the tools to do it. I just need a commitment from this board, whether we're going to do this or we're just going to let that CARES money expire. It's not our money. I'm not using staff time. I don't understand where these accusations of waste are coming from.
And I left, because I just wanted to just make sure that, I don't want to sound offensive, but one thing I do want to say, Mr. Dena, and all the council and people watching us is, I accept criticism very well. And criticism is what makes a person a better person, a police officer, a better police officer, a chief, a better chief for the community. I get emails every day. My boss calls me. Everybody calls me. I get called out by my finance director when I'm overspending. And I accept criticism well. That's number one. Number two, input is always greatly appreciated. Social media, you'll have people that are on social media that I answer to sometimes, and I try not to, but I have to step it up, because if we don't answer at times, it just stays there. And that's why I spoke up today, because I had to speak up. There's people out there, like I said, on social media that they've seen that I've answered their questions, and I've given them a process on how things go when it comes to policing. I can't give legal advice, but I can tell you this happens from the time we go to a call to respond to make an arrest, and when we file a DA's report, and that's it. So criticism, I take it well. I don't take it personal, because if I took it personal, I wouldn't be here this long. And I'm here to serve, but at the same time, I'm here to serve the community the right way, and I don't want to violate anybody's civil rights. I am not going to cost the city more money in liability because of my decision making emotionally, because I got COVID, and I don't want people to get COVID either. But I am not going to violate somebody's right and put the city in liability for something that's emotional. We got to be level-headed and think right. So thank you.
Yes, and there's a really good rule for criticism. Typically, and you'll see that my criticisms, when they come, are very substantive. They're very much on statistics and facts. The criticism that has come from the board has all been on my tone and demeanor. I want you guys to please stay on the substance of criticism. If you are going to criticize my plans, not how I bring them up to you. That is how I know that you have not internalized the criticism emotionally, and that you have stayed level-headed, and that you are thinking about the plans, not the emotion or the politics.
Yes. What time is it? 'Cause okay, so as a point of reference, the Constitution says that, it's written in the Constitution, as a matter of fact, people are free to move back and forth as they please, and we're not going to regulate people's way of movement. If the government of California, or for that matter the president, is not coming down to Calexico and putting roadblocks and doing all this because of COVID, well, there's a reason why, and I'm not going to question that. But aside from all that, to your points, Councilman Ureña, I appreciate your passion. At the beginning, when this came up, I actually voted when Mr. Councilman Romo was also in support of this, and as well as Garcia. And we specifically, as I recall, we gave instructions that you were going to provide us with a roadmap, so we can. That's the frustration what's going on here. You just provided points and about a meeting, what happened, he said, she said, it's recorded and all that. That's all good, but there's no solutions. I guess you're getting there, but the frustration what everybody's having here is there's no solution. I'm very practical. I like to approach a situation, research it, and give you a 3-step process, and how do you get there and the solution at the end. If I don't have anything like that, then I won't even propose it. I don't even do anything, because it requires a lot of time and effort. So the thing with the committee, you're recording. You say you're recording this conversations. Those are available. I'm assuming it's available, so we can review those. Also, in terms of your participants who were there in your committee, you did mention many of them. I'm familiar with all those. And one in particular, Heffernan, and I'll get back to him real quick before I finish. Nobody was there from the Imperial County Health Department, no representative of that organization, which I think it would have been valuable, at least an invite, right? And, show up there. You do have some member of the community with the medical, which is Dr. Vo. I wish I would, for me, I wish I would have had more nurses, MAs, more doctors. Because those are going to be your driving force. They're going to justify all your points with medical, any medical issues, especially because the experts. The other thing I was going to, but Chief Gerardo did an excellent job of addressing that, which has to be with the DUI checkpoints. I don't want to go back to again because he clarified that. The other thing, we're in approaching the Imperial County Board of Supervisors. I speak to 3 board supervisors not on a daily basis, but frequently when I have questions in terms of resources, and they do have resources, but it's not just I'll call and I'll get the check tomorrow. This is a long process for that, and it depends if they're competitive, not competitive grants. Requesting resources, yes, anybody can pick up the phone and call, but they're going to ask you all the stuff that are associated with releasing that money, and my experience with working with grants is it takes time for that, and not all are approved, by the way. Okay, COVID or no COVID. The good thing is everything is COVID right now. You pretty much got it secured. As long as you're able to justify it, and there's all kinds of piece of that puzzle that you have to fulfill because you're going to be the fiscal recipient of those funds, and it comes from the government, so you have to justify all that. The other thing, in terms of the vaccination with the vaccine, what's going on? My experience with that is that I know for sure that Calexico Wellness Center. In the middle of the summer, they had a request in some right before the flu season came in to request some flu shots, and they were promised 300 out of I think whatever 1,700 they got for the whole county. Obviously, that wasn't enough, and they only got 100. So vaccines are being distributed accordingly to the first responders and medical field and those personnel who are essential, and those are going to get the first ones. And that's on them. The other thing I want to end up with is the city council exists to provide basic services to the city of Calexico and the residents. That is the whole purpose we're here for. Make sure they get those services because they pay taxes. Nowhere it says that we have to provide vaccination, roadblocks, and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, you have a good idea. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for that. But unless we have a plan that specifically has a solution, I would support it. Now, the other thing also, we have businesses around are open. There's, poverty in Calexico. There's a lot of stuff going on that also we have to address as city council members. It's a huge responsibility. How are we going to address those with the tight budget we have? So those are my words. I really appreciate your passion, Councilwoman Romo as well, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. Before I finish, I said from the beginning, your issue is going to be resources, like anything else, the money. I said, go to Heffernan as an AHAG, go over there, go to AHAG, let them provide. They're the health district. They provide the clinical aspect of it, the doctors, the nurses, and the money. They have over last time I checked was $7 million, and they're going to tell you, we got all this stuff going on with programs, but they're getting $7 million. They're getting a percentage in the bank. Tap into the resources so you won't have to shoot yourself in the foot and say, can we ask money and then we don't have any, or can we ask for Imperial County or we don't have any. They have the resource that I think they can provide that for you, and that's going to be a huge roadblock if you don't get those resources. Thank you.
And I will piggyback on, Mr. Beaton is a very knowledgeable man, is very good at reaching out for resources as administrator. And, you should reach out to him, to the Heffernan, and see what Mr. Beaton could do for us as well. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ureña. Or Mrs. Romo, do you have anything before we move on?
Yes, please. I have big question. Are we doing everything in Calexico to help our people? It's my big question. Communication is very important, I know. Camilo, Mr. Ciro Calderon said yesterday, it's possible 10,000 family working together with the Calexico Unified School District in this problem, the COVID-19 in this moment. But the city of Calexico is the most important for the population in Calexico. Nuestro mensaje debe de ser que estamos unidos en esto. Excuse me. Es lo más importante. Había mucha gente en esa reunión, Council Member Camilo, mucha. No nada más los que participamos. El doctor Bo, 3 horas. Estuvo participando. Blanca estuvo ahí 3 horas. Necesitamos unirnos para que ya no haya más muertes aquí, ni su familia ni la mía. Gracias, Council Member Ureña. Hicimos este reporte juntos. Y Heffernan Memorial está presente. Tomás Virgen está presente. Todos están presentes. Okay, thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
If I could just have the last.
Uh-huh.
This is not about not being united, okay? My message is not being united and about not taking criticism, okay? That's part of just being in this position. And I said before many times, that's part of the politics, right? But what I'm just saying, let's get down to work, okay? Let's get down to, Mr. Ureña, you have good points. We should go to the, sources of funding and get those resources, right? Yes, maybe in the past where there were some missteps or whatever you want to call them or we want to call them. But let's not take those missteps again and let's act on it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm not here to, don't get me wrong, Ms. Romo. This is not about, not being united. I'm united. I'm part of the team. In fact, I'm not kidding. I wasn't kidding when I said, let's go ourselves and let's be the ambassadors to our people. Let's pass this message. Okay? Let's walk, just like it was done through the Heffernan when they were, distributing PPE. Let's do that. I'm not saying that I don't want to work together, that we're not united. We are united. We have to be united. There is no time for other things. But I just want actions. And I want to be part of that, Mr. Ureña. It's not that I don't take your criticism or anybody's criticism. I take it. We all do. Okay? So I just want to make that point clear. I'm here, someone said it. We're here to serve the citizens of Calexico. And the citizens of Calexico want action. They want this nonsense to stop. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Moving on, Gabby, yes?
Mayor, I have a speaker on this presentation. Yes, on the ad hoc committee.
It's been allowed in the past.
It's your prerogative, but
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
Ms. Daniela Flores would like to speak. Yes, on the ad hoc committee. We're on a 7-second delay. So. Ms. Daniela Flores would like to speak.
Hey everyone, are you going to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're on a 7-second delay. So. Ms. Daniela Flores would like to speak.
Okay, so hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Daniela Flores. I'm a resident of the city of Calexico. I also am a member of the ad hoc committee. I just wanted to respond to some of the comments that have been made. The thing I want to mention today, and I know this item has been going on for a little while, so I keep my messages brief. But I do want to reiterate that the committee just met yesterday. I want to thank Councilmember Rubén and Gloria
thank you. Okay, Gabby, moving forward. We're moving on to the public comments.
We have no public comments. All the comments are on specific agenda items.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to discussion and potential action items. Item number 2, request to release lien and agreements for Rancho Norte PH 1-Toys R Us TRU.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the community that are following our live feed right now. I bring this item for your consideration because we were approached in the early part of December on the possibility of a real estate transaction occurring on the property as we know as the Toys R Us building in the north part of Calexico. As a result of that transaction, there is an obligation that I need to bring to your consideration. In 1993, when that building was constructed, as part of improvements on Yorman Road and some of the vicinity, there was one lien and 2 agreements that were done as part of that development. At this point right now, I want to share with you that the request that we are making as staff in conjunction with our acting city engineer is that this council consider releasing the 3 items, which include the lien and the 2 agreements, as a result of making sure, verifying that such improvements for which these documents were included as conditions have been completed and have been delivered as it was agreed upon. At this point right now, if this council such decides to release these 3 items, what would proceed is for us to make this proper recordation with the County of Imperial, which would enable the real estate transaction to occur, and as a result, allow for future development to come to that property. And at this point, it would be a positive fiscal impact to the city of Calexico. I'll be happy to answer any comments or questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? Or do we have a motion to approve this item?
I move to approve agenda item number 2. If there's no, I'm sorry, if there's any
Do we
comments.
have a second? Go ahead.
You want a second? Mayor, I'll second that.
Okay. Gabby?
Mayor Arreola Fernandez,
Aye.
Mayor Bertent Moreno,
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña,
Aye.
Councilmember Romo, Councilmember Garcia.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Figueroa, moving on to item 3, approve and authorize the purchase of dispatch radio consoles, police vehicles radios, and police officer portable radios.
As part of the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget calendar that our finance department instilled, for which we had the opportunity to have public forums, in which we had the opportunity for department heads to come and present some of the items that have been pending for years now, that need to be revisited, that need to be considered in order to have our workforce be properly equipped to provide the service to our community. One of the items that was raised at such forums by our police chief was the fact that we were in dire need to replace 15-year-old radios and the corresponding console network that goes with that. So in essence, the radio console system is outdated. At many times, it's more expensive to repair and keep up so we can at least provide a basic service to our community. At this point right now, what you have here in front of you is an item that I consider an opportunity to provide a better dispatch service for our residents, a system that will be up to par, not only with county government here in the valley, but also with other cities. And as a result of that, what you have here is the actual expense that we are going to incur beginning 2023. For the first 2 years, there is not an expense that we're going to incur on this purchase. It would kick in 2023. And the result of that is because Motorola is a company for which conducts and provides the service at a very broad level, at an extremely broad level. So we have the opportunity to negotiate these types of deals that gear incentives to municipalities like Calexico. With that said, and to finish the presentation on this item, I would like to let you know that the expense that we would be incurring is included in the annual operational budget for the police department. At this point, this is the item before you, and if you have any comments or questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Do we have any questions? No. Okay, do I have an approval for item 3? Do I like a motion?
I'll second that, Mayor. I'll second.
Second? Okay.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña,
Aye.
Councilmember Romo, Councilmember Garcia.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item 4, approve and authorize the purchase of body cameras, tasers from Axel Enterprises Industries for the Calexico Police Department.
Absolutely. Along the lines of the previous item that I just presented to you, this item allows and continues to equip our police officers with the proper equipment, so again, they can provide the service that they wish. At this point right now, in order to complete the presentation of this item, I'm going to call up the Calexico Police Chief, Gonzalo Gerardo, to wrap up briefly the item so we can move on to any comments or questions you may have.
And I'll keep it brief. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you for the radio councils, because it does dispatch, it does serve police and fire and EMS. So it's not just the police department, it actually serves 2 departments. On the tasers, we need to upgrade, so our contract is over, and they, of course, with technology moves, the body cameras are better. We were the first department in the county to actually use body cameras. And they're very essential, and like I've told you guys, some of the members before, is it keeps our officers, protects them, and it keeps them, their integrity. I'm not saying they lack integrity, I'm just saying that we have recorded everything. Our policy states that they will turn on their cameras at all calls. So all calls get recorded. We have minimized our complaints when people complain, because I'll show them the video. And I'll say, well, here's the video, here's your complaint. So this is the reason why I'm asking for it. Officer safety, protect the city from liability, and it keeps the officer, improves the officer's performance too. Because I can call somebody in and say, hey, you sounded rude here. You need to change your ways you communicate with people. Number 2, it's a package. It's called the police officer package. So what it does is the tasers are the new tasers that came out. City of Imperial just bought them. City of Calexico hopefully will purchase them if we approved. I know the sheriff's office is going to approve it. So every entity is going to have 2 to 4 trainers. So we'll be able to train people on a quarterly or twice a year as part of as our training. Remember, lack of training, liability increases. Part of the package also includes training cartridges. So in other words, we won't be using the good cartridges for training. We'll be using training cartridges. Warranty on them. Cameras, we send them back. Storage, big problem with storage. We don't have to worry about storage because everything is cloud-based with Axon. And we already have the infrastructure set in place because of our previous cameras. We'll just have to make some few modifications, which is included in the deal. And one of the big things is that I was able to get them to, our contract expired June 30th. They're able to waive the first 6 months, which is July through December this year. So we saved about anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 there if we go ahead with a contract today. And that's it. Do you have any questions regarding
Quick
tasers?
question. What would be the difference? So we're replacing an outdated, maybe obsolete equipment, right? So how much would that be once we start paying in 2023, a difference?
Okay, so on the cameras, let me see the staff report here. I don't have the figures. I left it over there. So on the cameras, we start year 1, which we'll have to pay starting as soon as 30 days from when we get the equipment, which will be this coming year. will be 53,994. July 1st, or calendar year, I'm sorry, 73,731. It's on your staff report.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Total is 403,046 over 5 years.
Okay,
The radio systems console is the one that begins in 23.
Yeah.
okay.
That's the one that I was able to get a
Okay.
two-year no payment interest free, and then we get 2.9% interest on the remainder 6 years.
Okay, just to clarify, so we approved the console,
Yes.
so that will be the cost?
Yes.
So this is something else, so, yeah, because you were just...
I'm sorry, it's
I'm like,
different.
yeah, no, I didn't want to make sure that, I want to make sure that if we didn't, spend some of that money that, we will need to probably continue to replace, some of your equipment, as well as, firing everybody else. So that the more that we can, and I appreciate all those savings or potential ways to maximize our resources, so thank you, Chief.
Yes. So that's one of the things that Mr. Figueroa brought up, is that we were able to waive the first 2 years off the radio. That's a big one. That's $111,000 a year. And so, fortunately, we did have some money allocated for that already.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, do we have
Questions?
any more questions?
You
Okay.
guys put it forward?
So, moving on,
Motion to
do
approve?
we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Mayor Arreola Fernandez,
Aye.
Mayor Potent Moreno,
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña,
Aye.
Councilmember Romo, Councilmember Garcia.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Moving on to item 5, introduction and first reading by the title only of an ordinance amending Calexico Municipal Code, Section 2.04.18, regarding city council meetings conducted in English and Spanish with public translation services available.
I have public comments.
Excuse, okay? Yeah.
Loli Torres, resident of Calexico for the past 76 years at 46 Las Flores Drive. This is in regards to item 5 in the changing from English to Spanish, our city council meetings. Mr. Ureña, you have come forward with very good ideas for our community and the youth of Calexico, and I, for one, am glad to see young people come forward, as this will be your town when you get to the tercera edad. You can explain how your proposal is going to work, how long will your city council meeting be, and have you looked at the state and federal laws in regards to your suggestions? And I would like your answer in English. Please, although, as they say, I have el nopal en la frente and proud to be an American Mexican with deep roots en mi Calexico, lindo y querido, my main language is English and comprehend it better. All I am asking is that right now we have major problems with this pandemic in our city. Concentrate at that and bring this issue up after the holidays and let the residents express their opinion with more time. Con mucho respeto for Mrs. Romo, but in being in so many government boards, why hasn't she taken the time to engage herself in taking classes to learn and comprehend the English language? I and several of my fellow residents do not agree with this proposal. Please allow yourselves more time to research and give your residents more time to give their opinion. Thank you. God bless each of you, and stay safe. Comment from Ismael Arbizu. Buenas tardes, raza. I would like to support and push for bilingual meetings. It's simple logic. The majority of the city grew up with Spanish as their first language. Remember, the strongest tool of the imperialistic oppressor has always been language. How do you expect citizens to exercise their rights if they can't understand? Also, Gloria Romo, I believe you should be speaking Spanish as you like. The council understands Spanish. Majority of the people will understand you. There is no need to have 5 people speaking in English. It really doesn't represent Calexico. Peter Mercado. I would like for the request following public comments on item number 5 regarding English-Spanish language consideration change. Honorable council members and mayor, I would like to respectfully request that this item be tabled to provide a lengthier discussion on the topic. I believe it was hastily added as a means to swiftly change a more impactful subject which involves a thorough understanding of all the impacts, both socially and financially. This is a significant topic for consideration where the official language of the state of California is English and which all state and federal governance is conducted in English, and to abruptly decide to change that for local governance without public input is not acceptable. I have read the agenda staff report, and there simply isn't enough background information on the topic with the thorough enough report to be able to make an informed decision on the topic. Some of my concerns are increased costs of translation services, not only for live meetings, but for transcriptions and other services such as public records requests, legal review hours, translations that would require extra time and documentation. And one of the most important is the time that these council meetings will now take with the added steps for translations, as we would expect to go from English, Spanish, or Spanish-English verbal translations. Thank you for your consideration. Pete Mercado. This message is from Juan Manuel Valdez. He has 3 paragraphs on this. However, the top 2 paragraphs do not pertain to today's meeting or this item, so they will be read at the meeting of January 20th, 2021. The section I will read is for today. Ms. Romo, many residents in Calexico do speak English, which is also the primary language in the United States. Is that the reason why you and Mr. Ureña would want to conduct the city council meetings in Spanish rather than in English? The city of Calexico is in the United States. Juan Manuel Valdez. And I have Ms. Daniela Flores, who also wants to speak on this, so she will be unmuted. United States. Juan Manuel Valdez. And I have Ms. Daniela Flores, who also wants to speak on this, so she will be unmuted.
Hi everyone, Daniela Flores, again, resident of the city of Calexico. I just want to make my comments about this item and clarify a few points. So this item is suggesting that we should have the interpretation of Spanish available in addition to the already English language. So my comments are in support of providing interpretation in Spanish. You know, I'll just share the last meeting. My parents, while they've been in this country for over 30 years, and can sort of understand English, and sort of speak it, it was wonderful to be able to see them engaged at the last meeting, where there were interpretation services available through Zoom. It didn't take extra time. We just subscribed to the Spanish channel, and we were able to watch the meeting as a family. So I want to encourage that inclusivity is put at the forefront when these fiscal decisions are made. As you know, there's a large Spanish-speaking population here in Calexico, and I want to make sure that, there's enough time for people to make their comments, but I think that in order for the Spanish-speaking population to be able to contribute to the important discussions about COVID and about the urgent items that will be discussed at immediate meetings, it would be essential that our Spanish-speaking population is also able to engage in this discussion. So I urge you to consider inclusivity. I know that the interpreters that are currently interpreting this meeting at Agma and Carlos here, they have been great, and I urge you to consider continuing the service, because the suggestion is not to change the meeting to Spanish only. The suggestion is to include also the Spanish language. Thank you for your time, and I encourage you to vote yes, and I support this item. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would want to make a brief introduction before I pass on the baton to our 2 council members that requested this item on the agenda, that worked diligently with our city attorney, Carlos Campos, to prepare. As the last comment was made, as a result and some of you may have been part of this. A few weeks back, Assemblyman Garcia's office, myself, representing the city of Calexico, obviously, and the Department of Water Resources conducted a public outreach forum related to the new river improvement project, specifically as it relates to the projects in Calexico. At such forum, I was able to utilize the function that we are using right now via Zoom as a city. And that is in which anybody that's watching via Zoom our meeting, they can simply click the translate button. They can choose to have the translation off, have the meeting heard in English, or have the meeting heard in Spanish. I thought it was a very practical way of conducting business. So myself and Gabby, along with our finance director, added on the feature that's been used, I think now for the past 2 meetings, including the meeting in which you folks took oath for this new council. On that end, the translation service, even though we cannot have, as we used to before, the translators here in person for the attendees, now we figure out a way, obviously that's more efficient, which is to do it via our Zoom feed. So that is happening, as the last comment, or the last Ms. Flores mentioned in her comment. At this point right now, Mr. Ureña Meromo, if you would wish just to elaborate a little more on the thought process you had before this item, and I would also call up our city attorney in case there are any questions when it comes to the compliance of us providing the adequate service to the community that follows our meetings. Thank you.
Just to clarify 3 things, I think the key, well, I thank God, and this is why we have a first reading of ordinances, so we can clarify the language and any doubts that the community might have. The first point is, obviously, we are not proposing Spanish-only meetings. There is a total of 3 words that will be changed in the current code, and those 3 words are may and Spanish. So instead of, and I'll read it out loud, it's only 1 sentence that is being changed. Currently, it reads like this: City Council meetings shall be conducted in English. The city will provide translation services to the members, blah, blah, blah. The change would be, the City Council meetings may be conducted in English and in Spanish. That is the change. Under the section item here, discussion/action, it very accurately states the purpose of this ordinance, which is to codify or formalize existing practice. We already have English and Spanish meetings. The only purpose of this is to make it official. As far as state and federal laws, at a federal level, the United States does not have an official language. 31 states in the nation have officially ratified an official language as English, but if I'm not mistaken, the state of California is not one of those states. On the contrary, a lot of local jurisdictions, especially in the northern part of the state, Los Angeles, down south, obviously we have big Latino populations, but up north you also see translation or codification of the inclusion of Asian languages and other communities that are represented. So just to be very clear, there is no real change in our practice as a city. This is just codifying to reflect that this is how we run our meetings in English and in Spanish, and that it is our intention to be as inclusive as possible.
Okay. Only one comment, Madam Mayor. Most of the population speak and understand in Spanish in Calexico, okay? It is the city of the county where Spanish is most spoken. That's it.
We have.
It's necessary. All meetings is in English and translation in Spanish. That's it.
I would like to point out, Councilwoman Romo over the years has faced a lot of discrimination in the city. Like many of our community members, has faced a lot of discrimination for their English-speaking abilities, but we have to understand that our community, a lot of our community are professional licenciados from Mexico who speak very, very fluent academic Spanish, but not so much English. Councilwoman Romo is an example of a licenciada, economista, that speaks in Spanish. I want her to know through this code that it's okay to speak Spanish, that she is protected and encouraged as a measure of inclusivity.
That being said, so if we don't change it, if we don't vote on it, does it mean it just stays the way it is? We're already providing the services, isn't that so?
Yeah, you currently
Okay, then
provide.
so we don't have to do anything. if we don't
Correct.
want to. Weird, okay.
With the thing is that the current practice is not necessarily consistent with your code, because your code you do simultaneous translation from English to Spanish and vice versa. The way the current code reads is you only would do English to Spanish translation. So we're just amending. We're not making any official language here, picking one over the other. All we're just reflecting the current practices that when meetings are conducted, we do have translations going back and forth, and we're just making this section of the code consistent with the current practices of the city. So nothing would change. It's just to make it consistent with the current practice of how the city conducts meetings in both English and Spanish when we do have translations going back and forth.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make my thoughts on this. So by city ordinance, all meetings are conducted in English. That's city ordinance 2.04.180. And Spanish translation measures in place to help those understand. Under the ordinance, Spanish translation of city council sessions and other official business conducted in English is made available, particularly with a clear understanding that members of our community don't speak English, and this is a way of providing that service. As a reference to this matter, 3 government codes come into mind. Government Code 7290 and 7291, actually 3, 7293 and 72.2. The first dwells upon the Aleatory Bilingual Service Act, Government Code Section 7290, provides for effective communication between all levels of government in our state and the people of the state who are precluded from utilizing public services because of language barriers. The second one, Government Code Section 7291, provides every local public agency serving a substantial number of non-English speaking people shall employ a sufficient number of qualified bilingual persons in public contact positions or as interpreters to assist those in such positions to ensure provision of information and services in the language of non-English speaking person. And the third, Government Code Section 7293, substantial number of non-English speaking people is defined as members of a group who either do not speak English or who are unable to effectively communicate in English because it is not their native language, and who comprise 50% or more of the people served by a local office or facility of a state agency. Now, Government Code Section 7296.2, that actually derives from California Public Utilities Commission, even expanded the goal of the act. The act mandates state agencies to eliminate language barriers that preclude Californians either because they do not speak or write English or because their primary language is other than English from having equal access to public services to which they are maybe entitled. This act mandates that state and local agencies directly involved in the furnishing of information or the rendering of services to public employees. And it goes on and on. I mean, you can Google that. The city of Calexico has that in place. Okay, it's clear. Whether they're being efficiently at it, that's a different story. Okay, but for me, anyway, so we do communicate with citizens in our native language. I do it all the time. But to have that here at the city council when we're doing business, especially like the other day, we're here for 4 hours going on back and forth. No, 4 hours of talking English, put another 4 hours of talking Spanish. Come on. All right? So that's my thoughts on that. I would think that COVID-19 has really made an impact on everybody, the way we do business, and we're changing every day. Tomorrow, it's going to be another thing. So we need to compromise and find a better solution. Certainly not change it, and that's my take on that. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
Carlos, as it stands right now, that this ordinance, okay, is this enough to, or not enough, I don't want to use that word, but does this meet compliance as far as us providing services? Since we already provide translation services, Zoom is, per, the city manager, he stated that, there's an option for people to, switch into the Spanish translation. Is that sufficient? I mean, as far as compliance, are we meeting compliance with whatever law, whether it's ADA, civil rights, whatever that might be that is applicable here? Are we meeting just as it stands right now, without this modification?
Yeah, your current practice is, and I think you do go above, because honestly, a lot of cities do not provide translation, and even the ones who do, a lot of times they just translate from Spanish into English. I think here you actually translate both languages. We used to have a council member who would actually use he was primarily English speaking. He would use the translation services to hear when public comments were in Spanish. But yes, your current practices are even above the legal requirement. And all we're doing here is, like I said, just codifying that in your municipal code. At the same time, too, you could actually even delete that first sentence and just say the city will provide translation services and not even specify a language. That would be another option where you wouldn't say English or Spanish, but you could just say the city will provide translation service to members of the public at all regular meetings. So that one, it's just another thought in terms of how you want to proceed. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, they are meeting the requirements, actually going beyond that, and this year we'll just codify that current practice in your code.
Well, and again, I come from also the compliance side, and I want to make sure that we're inclusive, that we include everybody, that we provide the services or the ability to participate in these meetings. So whether it's to translation services that we already provide, and if it is not mistaken, the last time that I checked our board, for compliance laws, at the workplace, excuse me, at least the state of California lists about 13 languages, different languages, that if you require assistance in that, that should be provided, and that suffices. And then also, we keep on digging this situation. And maybe it's here, I'm sorry, but if they require any type of accommodations, whether it's access to Braille, right, access to sign language, I've seen when, the governor goes on and before the public, the citizens, they have a, interpreter. And now we run into the issue that now we have an American Sign Language interpreter, Spanish, Mexican Spanish interpreter, whatever that might be. So I think if we put this, and this is just my take, this is constructive, discussion. I think if we open ourselves up to being specific, now we have to continue the specificity probably in the future. So that's why my question is, if we're meeting, or even exceeding in our compliance as it stands right now with any of these changes, that's just what I want to know, to make sure that we have all of that in place and that we're not held liable later on. And also something that, the agenda has probably needs to have, very prominent is that if you need these accommodations, please let us know 72 hours in advance. Yes. If you need a sign language interpreter, if you need Braille, or you need whatever else. So personally, I have a friend who does sign language, but again, he's not interested in this. I go and talk to him and I don't care. I could care less about that. But nonetheless, that could be something that we want to be specific. Let's just think about that.
Just to
Okay, so moving on.
to go ahead, Madam Mayor, if I may clarify Mr. Moreno's comments, so it's made clear. There wouldn't be a duplication. Essentially, right here, I want to clarify, no changes to our current practice would happen. We would just make sure to describe our current practices in our code. And I want to pay attention specifically to these two words. It actually offers us more flexibility. This change would offer us more flexibility because currently it says city council meetings shall be conducted in English, will be conducted in English and English only. The change is may be conducted in English and Spanish. So under no circumstance would we be obligated to speak in English and then immediately speak in Spanish. That's just not the case. And the ADA is federal, we just have to do that.
Yeah, and just one more thing. I think, if we add also, coming also from that side, I think when we start getting into the translation also, I know this is to accommodate, and I understand that, but in accommodating also means also spending more resources, which I wouldn't mind if there's a need. Okay, we all agree with that. But also, we got to think about, once we do this, then we also have to look into maybe having staff be paid, bilingual pay.
Yeah, that's so true.
So again, we're incurring more expenses, and I'm getting long faces right now. But, or happy faces, however you see it. But again, if it is not broken,
Just leave it.
why fix it? But let's just make sure that we include everybody.
Okay, then, moving on. So do I have a motion to approve item 5?
I think it's just the first reading. Yeah.
We need a motion to approve
at
the
the
first
second-
reading.
I still need a motion.
A motion to approve the first reading? I'll make a motion to approve the first reading.
Have a second? Okay.
Mayor Ariola Fernandez,
No.
Mayor Protem Moreno,
No.
Councilmember Ureña,
Aye.
Councilmember Romo, Councilmember Garcia.
No.
Motion does not pass.
Okay. Moving on. Okay, so since this is a special meeting, we do not, at this point, ask for future agenda items. And I guess we'll be ending this meeting, and happy holidays to all. Be safe. And let's welcome the New Year's with open arms and mask on. Thank you all.
Thank you.